Why didn't medieval armor fully protect the arms and legs? The answer is multifaceted, stemming from a complex interplay of factors related to survival, mobility, and resource constraints. The primary focus for knights and soldiers was always the protection of the head and torso, as these areas housed vital organs. A single, well-placed blow to the chest or head could prove instantly fatal, making these areas the highest priority for armor protection. Conversely, completely encasing the limbs in heavy steel armor significantly hampered mobility, rapidly depleting stamina and severely hindering the ability to effectively fight or march for extended periods. This reduced effectiveness on the battlefield far outweighed the marginal increase in protection for the limbs. Furthermore, the tactical use of shields, formations, and even the protection afforded by horses frequently served to deflect or mitigate blows aimed at the extremities, thus lessening the demand for extensive limb armor. This prioritization of core protection was further driven by the exorbitant cost of armor production. The majority of combatants could only afford the most essential pieces, helmets and breastplates, leaving their arms and legs with lighter protection, or none at all. In essence, medieval armor design followed a stark, survival-based logic: protect what kills quickest. The heart, lungs, major blood vessels, and the brain, all located within the chest and head, were the primary targets of enemy attacks and the areas where a single strike could quickly end a fight. Consequently, the most robust and expensive armor was concentrated on the torso and head. A blade piercing the ribs, a spear puncturing a lung, or a skull-crushing blow could immediately incapacitate a warrior. While wounds to the arms or legs were undoubtedly painful and sometimes serious, they rarely resulted in immediate death, offering a chance for retreat, regrouping, or rescue. This significant difference in lethality fundamentally shaped the design of medieval armor. Heavy gambesons under mail or plate armor, sturdy helmets and visors, neck protection, collars and gorgets, and reinforced shoulders were all designed to safeguard the vital core. Limited resources reinforced this prioritization. Armor production was expensive, both in terms of materials and labor. The weight and cost of armor were significant constraints, leading smiths and patrons to focus their resources where they would yield the greatest return: the protection of the vital organs. Dense layers of armor and carefully shaped plates clustered over the torso, while the limbs often relied on less expensive and lighter padding, mail, or partial splints. This wasn't due to carelessness or oversight. It reflected a practical triage approach dictated by the brutal realities of battlefield conditions and the limitations of medieval medicine. Surgeons were often able to repair injuries to the limbs, even saving limbs that were severely damaged. However, penetrating chest wounds or head trauma were far more likely to result in death. The patterns of weapon use in real combat also favored concentrating protection on the torso and head. Spears, lances, and polearms naturally targeted the largest moving mass of the torso, particularly when fighters were in formations or engaged in mounted combat. The height and momentum of these weapons, especially from horseback, tended to deliver blows to the chest and shoulders. Even in close-quarters sword fights, where bodies were pressed together, strikes often landed on the most exposed areas: ribs, collarbones, and the face. Shields significantly amplified this pattern of attack and defense. Large kite shields or heater shields, held close to the body, effectively deflected many blows aimed at the arms and legs when positioned correctly and overlapped with the shields of neighboring combatants. This overlapping created a defensive barrier that turned many attacks into glancing blows or complete misses. The shield effectively handled many peripheral threats, while the core armor focused on the blows that managed to penetrate the shield's defense. Biomechanics added yet another critical factor influencing armor design. Joints require a significant range of motion, and wrapping elbows and knees in heavy, early-period metal armor severely restricted movement, reducing reach, hindering footwork, and depleting stamina. Keeping the limbs lighter preserved speed and agility, essential for feints, recovery maneuvers, and long marches. The weight of the armor was strategically concentrated where it would least impede movement, over the chest and back. While later innovations in articulation improved limb coverage, the fundamental priority remained unchanged. The fastest path to a kill ran directly through the torso and head. Combat in the Middle Ages rewarded agility and speed. Arms and legs were the body's primary levers for movement, and adding extra armor plates to these areas increased the effort required for any movement, thus reducing agility. Weight placed far from the body's center of gravity raised the moment of inertia, slowing down quick cuts, parries, and steps, transforming them into sluggish, energy-sapping actions. Effective swordsmanship required a smooth kinetic chain from hips to shoulders to the blade, and stiff elbows or heavy greaves disrupted this flow of movement. Critical actions such as climbing siege ladders, bracing a pike, cocking a crossbow, or mounting and dismounting a horse all demanded flexibility in the knees, ankles, and shoulders. The early rigid armor pieces often hampered or completely prevented these movements. Mail and padded cloth offered a compromise, decent cut resistance with sufficient flexibility to maintain range of motion, while the heaviest armor remained concentrated on the chest and head, where it didn't interfere with every step and movement. Stamina played a decisive role in battle, often proving as critical as the armor itself. Military campaigns involved long dawn marches, extended guard duties, sudden skirmishes, and eventual major engagements. Fatigue accumulated over hours and days, and heavily armored limbs led to faster heat buildup, increased sweating, and a shorter duration of effective combat before exhaustion set in. In infantry formations, where spears and shields were locked together, limb plates sometimes snagged on neighboring warriors and trapped weapons, while lighter sleeves and hose allowed for small adjustments that maintained the cohesion of the line. Cavalry required free leg movement to control their horses and maintain balance in the stirrups, especially over uneven terrain. Heavy leg armor interfered with a rider's seat and balance, potentially compromising their effectiveness at the crucial moment of impact. Archers and crossbowmen faced similar challenges. The drawing of a bow or crossbow required the freedom of movement in the shoulder and elbow. Extra weight on the forearms impaired the speed and timing of the shot and fatigued the rotator cuff muscles. Therefore, many archers and crossbowmen kept their limb armor minimal to maintain a high rate of fire. Falls, a common occurrence on muddy battlefields littered with debris and obstacles, also posed a significant risk. Flexible knees and ankles proved more advantageous than rigid armor when a warrior stumbled. The ability to quickly recover from a fall often meant the difference between survival and injury. Later armor advancements, such as articulated plates, sliding rivets, and other innovations, mitigated some of these issues, but these improvements added cost and weight, still impacting endurance. The pivotal role of shields in medieval warfare significantly influenced armor design. Shields were not optional but integral to survival, and their presence shaped the evolution of armor. Large kite shields, prevalent in the 11th and 12th centuries, covered a significant portion of the body, protecting the limbs from numerous attacks. Even when the smaller heater shield replaced the kite shield in later centuries, fighters effectively protected their limbs by strategically positioning it to cover the left side while their right hand wielded a weapon. The practical protection afforded by shields reduced the need for heavy metal limb armor, particularly in situations demanding speed and maneuverability. In dense infantry formations, soldiers would overlap their shields to form an almost impenetrable barrier, limiting the number of exposed areas. This tactical shield wall reduced the necessity for complete armor sets and heavily emphasized protection of the vital areas. When formations broke down or fighters engaged in single combat, the head and torso remained the priority targets, further reinforcing the need for heavy armor in these areas. Mounted knights also utilized shields effectively. The shield, carried on the left arm, protected much of the body during a charge, while the horse itself acted as an additional barrier for the legs. The mounted warrior's strength lay in speed and momentum, making extra leg armor less critical than maintaining balance and agility. The chaotic nature of battle further underscored the prioritization of core armor. Most strikes in large-scale melees targeted the largest and easiest areas to hit: the torso, shoulders, and head. Arms and legs were smaller, more mobile targets, less reliable areas to aim for amid the chaos of hundreds of clashing bodies. Only in controlled environments like tournaments or judicial duels, where precision and one-on-one combat were paramount, did strikes targeting limbs become more common. In these circumstances, we find more complete arm and leg protection. In summary, the logic of battlefield survival and the protective role of shields effectively explain the consistent prioritization of core protection in medieval armor, leaving the limbs with lighter, more flexible coverage. The cost of armor significantly impacted design choices. Armor production was a costly process, involving considerable expenditures on materials, labor, and maintenance. These economic realities naturally steered protection towards the head and torso, while keeping the limbs lightly armored. A breastplate and backplate required high-quality, uniform material, meticulous heat treatment, and numerous hours of labor from skilled armorers. Any mistakes in the forging and fitting process could compromise the entire harness. Limb defenses, on the other hand, could be delayed, simplified, or omitted without immediately jeopardizing life. Therefore, these became adjustable components in a warrior's equipment. The initial acquisition cost was only the first expense. Straps, buckles, and liners wore out quickly, and elbows, knees, and shins suffered constant abrasion from marching, kneeling, and riding. Replacing worn-out components frequently and maintaining the armor across a campaign season raised expenses. A well-crafted helmet and robust torso defense, however, tended to last much longer. This durability difference emphasized the importance of investing primarily in core protection. The availability of materials also influenced this pattern. High-quality iron and steel were not uniformly available. Importing plate armor from major centers or commissioning local production led to high prices. Specialized workshops produced sophisticated articulated pieces for the limbs, but shipping, middlemen, and guild markups made them luxury items. Many soldiers relied on second-hand markets, salvaged battlefield equipment, and piecemeal upgrades to equip themselves. A good helmet came first, then a breastplate over mail, gauntlets to protect the hands, and only later, if finances allowed, would soldiers acquire leg armor, cuisses and greaves, and full-arm harnesses. Opportunity costs also played a crucial role. A well-equipped warrior household required horses, tack, weapons, spare gear, and funds to support squires and retainers. A knight who overspent on leg armor but lacked a reliable mount or serviceable lance was ill-prepared for the realities of campaign life. Infantry budgets were even tighter. Archers and billmen prioritized sturdy helmets and padded jackets or mail shirts offering protection against cuts and dispersing impact. Limb armor that reduced their rate of fire or caused leg fatigue diminished the overall effectiveness of their units. Government procurement policies and social display added additional layers of complexity. Wealth signaled status, leading elites to purchase ostentatious pieces of armor. However, even among the nobility, intelligent spending prioritized high-quality steel for areas where fatal blows landed. Meanwhile, municipal and royal arsenals focused on creating standard, functional armor sets, prioritizing essentials and trimming extras. Mass production favored torso pieces and simple helmets suitable for a wide range of body types, while complex limb articulations were more difficult to mass-produce and maintain. Modular armor design provided cost savings. Combining mail, splints, and plates around joints reduced expenses while retaining some level of protection, though every rivet and sliding lame increased production time and repair needs. In short, the total cost of ownership, purchase, transport, fitting, repair, and replacement made comprehensive limb coverage a poor investment of limited resources. Concentrating top-quality metal on the core provided the highest survival rate per unit of cost, and this approach kept warriors adequately equipped, mobile, and ready for the next campaign. By the 14th century, the nature of warfare underwent a significant transformation, necessitating adjustments in armor design. The longbow, with its ability to pierce mail from a distance, and the increasingly powerful crossbow presented new challenges that armor designed for sword and spear combat couldn't adequately address. Infantry formations employed long polearms, halberds, and pikes that could hook, thrust, and strike at angles that exposed vulnerable areas, including the limbs. This new reality led to a steady improvement and expansion of protective gear. Articulated plates began appearing at the elbows and knees, carefully riveted to allow movement while dispersing the force of blows. Greaves protected the shins, while polions guarded the knees and couters shielded the elbows. Gauntlets evolved into intricate designs offering both dexterity and protection. These innovations represented a technological advancement in metallurgy and design, as smiths learned to craft curved plates that deflected impacts rather than shattering. However, complete limb protection remained far from universal. The high cost of producing fully articulated plate armor meant that only the wealthiest knights and nobles could afford them. A complete suit of plate armor required immense labor, specialized tools, and imported iron or steel, making it a considerable investment, comparable to land or horses. For ordinary soldiers, partial solutions were more practical. Many used mixed equipment, combining mail sleeves with splints or padded cloth, reinforced with small plates, brigandines. These offered some limb protection while remaining lighter and more affordable. Crucially, they allowed soldiers to endure long marches, carry supplies, and fight repeatedly without succumbing to the sheer weight of steel. Ceremonial and tournament armor highlighted this evolution's extremes. In justs and formal duels, combatants anticipated precise blows to the arms and legs, and full suits became standard. Knights could afford ornate, polished steel covering every inch of their bodies, not merely for protection but as a symbol of status. On the battlefield, however, the image of a knight fully encased in shining plate armor was rare. Even when limb armor was available, commanders often prioritized speed, endurance, and formation cohesion over absolute coverage. Infantry needed mobility, archers required flexibility, and cavalry demanded riders capable of controlling their mounts. The legacy of later centuries reveals that the decision to armor or not armor the limbs was never static. It reflected a constant interplay between advancing weapon technology, economic realities, and the inherent physical limitations of the human body. While armor eventually expanded to cover more of the arms and legs, the underlying principle persevered. The torso and head determined life or death, and protecting these vital areas always superseded the luxury of fully armoring every limb.